Good morning and welcome to episode 7, Steadfast Brotherhood Podcast. Kind of wild. It's been 7 episodes. Feels like we just started, but here we are, episode 7. If you missed episode 6, go back and check that out. Powerful testimony from our pastor, Pastor Chad Campbell. So be sure to go check that out on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoy the show, please rate us 5-star, give us a review, and subscribe to the show. We much appreciate it. But today we have a kind of tough topic to talk about. You know, we're kind of alternating weeks of biblical or cultural topics, and then we're doing testimonies the in-between weeks. But today's going to be a fun topic to talk about, but kind of a touchy subject per se. But we've got Jeff and Daniel with me. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Yeah, this topic may be I used to listen to you, now I don't. or hey, I'm gonna listen to you more. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean this topic has come up in and around the older my boys get, and the guys that I meet. But looking forward to it. Digging in scripture yesterday of some of the things I want to look up and touch on, and so the topic got me in my word last night after a long day of work. So
there you go.
Anything's good when you end your day with that. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and tell you we're talking about travel ball and the sports culture and how it relates to church today. And so, again, it's a touchy subject for a lot of people. I mean, I lived it. Daniel's lived it as a parent. You've got kids now playing baseball, so potentially will live it. But, let's just kind of look at the idea. Daniel, do you want to explain what travel ball is for those that aren't familiar with it?
So, I think it's migrated to just about every sporting event now: softball, baseball, football, basketball, AAU, 7-on-7 for football. It's just what it started as was a elite, more of a the better kids go here and play more elite competition. The competition's better, and so that's what it kind of started as. And now it's kind of got to where it's a kind of everybody goes. Where there was 5 teams, now there's 50 teams. Right. I think there was an all-star tournament. I was talking to somebody this past weekend down at the beach, and there was 240 teams in it.
Wow.
So it started as a elite sports group for older kids, and to be seen by colleges, they'd hold these tournaments or whatever, and for that route. But now it's creeped down to even some 6U kids where you can go, play all, and even into the more like you can just specialize in one sport. So that's kind of a caveat for another discussion maybe. But it was built for elite kids to go play better competition than just playing rec ball, where you have all types of different players.
Yeah, it used to be like you take the best player on a rec or a little league team, and those are the kids that need to go play better competition. But now it's kind of funneled to everybody, right? And Perfect Game, which is probably the biggest organization for baseball and youth baseball out there, they now rank players and teams for like 10-year-olds. Yep. That's wild to me. We're ranking, 10-year-old players.
You can go on their website and pay a fee and get stats for your kid. They keep them up. You pay for it, and they keep stats and do all this. So it's really gotten. That's great, right? Informative. You keep up with stuff. I'm not hating on it. It's just where it is.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen a growth in youth sports in some ways in America. But also, I think the script's kind of been flipped a little bit, where all the focus is on games or competition versus development and practice. It really hit me. My son Hayden is 4, and he started playing soccer at the Y this past spring. They did one practice, and they started playing games. I was like, he's 4. He needs to learn how to kick the ball and learn the fundamentals of the game. That was frustrating to me because, one, I'm not really a soccer player. I don't know nothing about soccer, but I want him to be able to be taught the skills in practice. Really, I think a 4-year-old should just be practicing, man. They don't really need to play games. And that was eye-opening to me. I knew the culture had gone that way, but it's like we look at it. When I played baseball growing up, it was like we played games. We had a lot of practice. There's a lot of fundamental development. I think that's kind of shifted to where it's all kind of the games, tournaments, that kind of thing.
Now, there are teams that's their mindset. So there are good situations, but when you get as big as it's gotten, then there are situations where it's all about winning. And if you listen to Chad last week, that's not really our goal. If you listen to what he said, it's kind of like, are we doing it backwards, kind of?
Probably. And I think the more money is being spent in youth sports than ever. And it's funny because America's actually being passed by nearly every other country in a lot of sports outside of football. You look at the development, and I mean, in baseball, the Japanese are significantly passing America in that sport. And really a lot of sports. Now we're seeing the NBA, some of the top NBA draft picks being from Spain or these European countries versus American kids. Now football is different because football is not as popular in other countries. Football in other countries is soccer. It's not football as we know it here. But it's actually interesting that studies show that America is being passed in a lot of sports. And so are we doing it backwards? Potentially. And we're sinking more money in it than ever, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about baseball, like kids from the Dominican Republic and countries like that, they're practicing, building facilities and practicing 200 days a year and then playing 20 games, where we're practicing 20 days and playing 200 games. I mean, kids now play more games than major leaguers played.
Yeah.
In 16 years, they played them in 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
I've been on a mission trip to the Dominican. I've seen it firsthand what they do, and it's really, I mean, because they'll just get on any field, like any grass. I mean, they've got some nice fields, but also like compared to what we have, you would think this is a dump. But those kids go out there every single day and they just practice, man, and they practice all day, and it's a different culture. That's their way out, man. A lot of those kids don't have anything. So that's their way. They make money in the international signing period once they turn 16. That's how they provide for their family and get out of the country. So it's a little different in that sense, where a lot of kids here have been spoiled, where they got everything. You may not think that, but they've got really everything. And you think about those kids, they got nothing. They ride their bike over there to the field. They got a glove, and that's really about it. And so they're just hoping that they can, somehow make it out of the country playing baseball. But it's really eye-opening when you see it. And it was really cool I sat over there one morning and just watched and talked to some of the people with a translator. Of course, I can't speak Spanish very well, but it was kind of neat to see that culture and how it's so different than here. But you're right. They're investing time in practicing and developing skills that will help them versus games. So I think really it comes down to the idolization of sports in the American culture. We've idolized it. We've all been guilty of it. I've idolized sports. I've idolized sports that I wasn't even involved in, like football or baseball teams that I've been in, enjoy watching. And in a way that becomes an idol. And so in a way that's not good when we make anything an idol. And if you're listening, this topic, anything can be an idol. It's not just travel sports. It's not sports in general. I think we can find anything that can become an idol in our life if we put anything over God. And I think that's important to kind of preface the conversation with. So kind of looking at the travel ball's impact on the church, put a couple of ideas there, but a lot of it's time commitment. I mean, you've seen it. Tournaments are played when?
Yep. Just, on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. And, and then practices are, typically Wednesday and Sunday, because you get to the point where rec ball's going on. So they've got the fields Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So the what's left over, the travel ball gets, and that's Wednesdays and Sundays. So, which makes it tough there too. So it's kind of creeped in everything. So there's weeks that you could literally practice and play almost every day. And then, you feel bad because you want your kid to go to practice because first of all, you paid to do this. And then you want them to get better. You want them to develop. And then, so it's kind of like, I paid for this, You know, we're not going to miss this because we paid for it, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And there's some teams that are expensive.
Yeah.
There's some teams that are not, and they do the developmental stuff. So it's just different situations for different folks. But yeah, it can be take up your whole weekend for sure.
Yeah, and I think that doing that, then it funnels down to like, what are the family priorities, you know? So you got to think about that when it comes to, obviously we want the best for our kids. So you want to put them in the best situation to succeed. But then how does church fit in that mold? And I know there's travel teams that do devotion maybe on Sunday, prayer, but like the community I think they're missing at church is really big.
Yeah. And, you know, every sport's different. Like 7-on-7 flag football, it may be on Saturdays. They do some baseball, Friday Night Lights tournaments, and some other stuff. And then girls softball, you know, they do it. It's a Friday night, Saturday tournament. So there are avenues where you can do it, but it's got to be in the right situation. And then, you know, what is it doing to the rec leagues? You know, that are kind of more developmental, like, so it's a whole, you know, my brain just goes, you know, but it's you really just got to sit back and look, is it right for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's important because I think sports instill a lot of good values in kids. And I think that it can teach a lot of good lessons at a young age. I don't know if you have your boys have started playing ball. Is there anything that you've seen that they've learned or from just being on a team?
Well, I mean, my kids are complete black and white. My oldest is he loves his friend. Y'all can't see him, but Connor's in the room visiting with us today. And, you know, that's all he talked about when he played with Daniel and Nick, he was just excited about just playing with friends. It didn't matter what it was. So he's our fun-loving kid. Competitive in his most. He'll figure out the game within the game. But when it comes to just playing baseball or playing football, riding his bike means nothing as long as he's with a friend. Now, my youngest, a little different. So he's trying to, this year, he's 6 playing with 8-year-olds. So we're trying to teach him some being humbled a little bit, which he found out first practice. Everybody throws a little harder, runs a little faster, and he was already crying. So, but, you know, the biggest aspect of me playing sports when I was growing, I mean, my family comes from a long line of baseball, of athletes. My great uncle played with Shoeless Joe Jackson back in the day. So he's in the museum there. My mom was a head cheerleader, softball. My uncle, I believe he still holds records at Carolina High. He's on the Wall of Fame here in Easley for Legion ball stuff. My brother played all through Wren, had college offers, in baseball and football, chose football. So me, I was just hard-headed, quit when it got hard. But played baseball in my life as well. And, the things I'm very different in the aspect is, losing my father at an early age, a lot of good things that I developed as a young dude came from some good coaches. I think sports, gets to showcase you, lets you be the shining star, teaches you how to be a team player, teaches you how to win proudly, and then also how to lose gracefully. And that's, it incorporates everything in life. Not everybody gets the job interview, that or get the job that you interview for, or, things like that. And that's why I wanted to put my sons in it, because they learn defeat, they learn victory, they learn, what it's like to amp up your buddy when he's falling, and what it feels like to be picked up by somebody else when you're down. So there's some good aspects to sports. And it gets them, at the end of the day, it gets them off cell phones and video games and outside, sure. Being that. So, but, I can see now as my kids are getting older and around the community, not sitting there saying it's a bad thing, so please don't take me wrong. But, I think when Caden he made All-Stars in 8U, and he was hitting to the fence. And I had a couple buddies that didn't play with Ren, a couple that did. Hey, you think about travel ball, I'm like, he just finally figured out how to hit the ball, and he's just a big kid. He hitting it to the fence, and it's just like, and this was before I came into faith and anything like that. And, it's just the money aspect. I was like, holy moly, it's like $800 for one season. And I might have to go to Tennessee, or I might have to, stay local but go, Seneca or Irmo or anything like that. Like, I was like, holy moly, that's a really big commitment. And I'm that type of dad, like, son, if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. Yeah. And so, it's just, it's wild. And more talks. Some of it gets annoying being on a youth league, and they say, well, that kid's a travel ball player. I'm like, so, he just throws a little bit more than my kid does or the next kid. But I see good kids all around that play no travel ball and will smoke your travel ball kid, and it's just like, what are we doing here? We make fun of women of living, these pageant girls. Oh, you're usually a 300-pound lady, you're, just vicariously living through your girl. We make fun of that. Yeah. I see a lot of dads that played 1 year at Palmetto High School that was a third stringer in first base, probably just, grab bats, making his son be like he's the next, King Griffey, and living vicariously through him, doing the same thing that we make fun of women of doing the same thing. It's pretty interesting, and I think that's where we flip the switch of start that idolizing that aspect of it and putting that on our kids.
Yeah, and I think too, like, we're a instant society, right? So like, if you take your kid and you hit in the cage, and then that's automatically got to transfer to the game, right? Like, you did fine in the cage, why don't you do it on the field? So we put pressure on kids, for one, because we want to see them succeed, but for two, if you're doing travel, you paid for it, right? Now, all three of my kids have played, and we had a blast. Earboy played travel volleyball. We went to Kentucky. We went all over. Got to see a lot of stuff playing volleyball. Some great experiences and some trips we wouldn't have took if she wasn't playing.
And let me ask you, and I'll ask you because you're that dad, because that's done it. Me and Chris hasn't yet. Is that where, I didn't come from much. My mom's a single parent. So it's like those things as parents, we want to be able to give them those things we probably didn't grow up with, because I know travel ball wasn't a big thing, and it was Legion ball. That was kind of like your cream to crop there.
No fall ball, no nothing.
Right. So did it ever put you in your headspace like, man, I just want to provide and do these things that my kids would never have done ever, and we get wrapped up in doing too much for our kids when you don't really have to? Because that's where I am. I want my kids. You want them pair of shoes, man? I got you. You want that $500 bag? Cool, I got you. And it has nothing to do with anything of them. It's just I was a lot of the not knocking my mom, but just doing the best you could. Got a lot of hand-me-downs. Yeah. We didn't get to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I think you want your kid to have it better than you did, right? So when it comes to that, we kind of left it up to, hey, if you want to play, let's play. And if you want to play, we'll play. We went. At the time, church really wasn't it's a priority. I mean, it was a priority, but it wasn't. If you missed, it was all right. It wasn't a big deal. And if you want to go further and play, you need the reps. So you get the mindset of, well, if you're going to go further than high school, like, you need to be getting reps. You got to keep up, right? You got to keep up. And the only way to do that in the off season, if you don't take private lessons, is to play travel ball. So you get that mindset. So I think it was some of both. We want to provide and want her to have fun because she was enjoying it. You get on a different team. You meet new kids, so you have to adapt to that. It kind of takes you out of your bubble you're in just here. So there's a lot of stuff that you get different coaches' perspectives. You get different outlooks of – but, I mean, you go to a volleyball tournament and, I mean, there's 1,000 teams there. It's like you'll go in, you see the baseball fields, but they'll be in Kentucky. I think there was 100 courts. Wow. You got to keep your head on a swivel. You'll be walking by and boom, you'll take one to the head. But yeah, I think it was a lot of both, like wanting them to progress and get reps and do, and then to have those opportunities that maybe we didn't have. But in the long run, like, I don't think, as far as skill-wise, I think you're better off doing the lessons and and developing more than playing the games. I mean, I think game touches are important, and I think games are important, but I don't think going and doing all the games takes the place of development.
At a certain age, right? I think I think you look at the development of an athlete, and I think that the age is important to think about too. You know, most people that work in baseball will tell you, you know, they really don't need to be playing travel ball till 15, 16. And I know that sounds crazy, but you think 15 is ninth grade. So, like, really at that point, like, bodies are maturing. You think about we're ranking 10-year-olds, man. So much is going to change. I think about the best kids the best players in Little League when I was 10 to 12, they all flamed out before high school because they were just bigger than everybody. Not that they had more skill. They were just bigger than everybody else. They could throw it harder or hit it further than everybody else. And those kids didn't have to really put in the work to develop because they were the best in Little League, so they didn't feel the need to really put in the extra effort. I was always smaller, so I had to put in more work, you know. Right. But at some point, they plane off. They only gonna get so big or so strong. And so I think you think about the development of a player and just physically, and so much changes over the lifespan of a kid. And so, you know, think what they are at 10 is not what they're going to remotely be at 15.
Yeah, and so I'm a big 3-sport proponent. Play them all. I think it works different muscle groups. I think it keeps you from specializing in, let's say, baseball. You only use the same muscles, different muscles than you do in basketball or football. So I'm a big proponent of that. But then if you get specialized in one thing and that's all you do, the chance of burnout. I mean, I had 2 or 3 guys that I played with in high school that went on and played in college and played 1 year and got burnt out because, you know, 2-a-days. I mean, we didn't play that much baseball, but then when it really got to college and you start playing, like they were like, man, I don't have time for this, and this. And that's something with us playing travel ball. You know, the birthday parties are out, you know, the family vacations, you might be having to come home early. So it's that time commitment doesn't just take away from when you're doing nothing. It takes away from everything.
Yeah, you know, I think that's important to think about. I've done a lot of work in the baseball field of, you know, minor league evaluation, some amateur evaluation. Scouts I talk, they're looking for athletes, right? So I think you become a better athlete by playing multiple sports. And I think that a lot of these kids that are drafted now, they aren't high school kids that are getting drafted are not just, there are a lot of specialization, but there's also a lot of athletes, and there's also kids that are 4-star football recruits that are being signed by major league teams. They've got some skills on the baseball field, and they look at him like, this kid's a premium athlete, and we can develop him. Right. And so a lot of teams are looking for that athleticism, and that's something big in the scouting world is they just want to see these athletes, you know, because athleticism is something you can't coach in some ways, but it's also something you develop by doing more than just one sport. So I think like you said, you develop different muscles and you become a better athlete by doing different things. So I think that's so important. Yeah. So you have some stories, any stories or real life examples you want to share? I know you reached out to a couple people. If you have any, if they were okay with you sharing anything anonymously, you know.
Yeah. No, I just reached out. We talked about this topic. Well, we talk about sports generally, you know, every week in some fashion. But so I just sent a text out to a couple buddies of mine, and because we have this conversation, and the question I asked them is, hey, what is your opinion on travel ball? And the responses I got were what I thought I would get, and they were across the board, but they were kind of. This comment from one of them sums it up. A double-edged sword. And so the double-edged sword. Let's see. The next one I got was our experience have been fantastic. We've built it in a great way with a total family vibe. If we didn't do it that way, we probably wouldn't play. So they've built the team they have in a total family vibe. They don't really miss church. They make family a priority. You know, it's so it's kind of a mixture. If it's a good situation, then it's good. But if it's not, and it's all you focus on, then it's not. So I guess that's where that double-edged sword kind of sums up the 5 that I asked. And then, I had one that said his daughter played college softball, and if they wouldn't have, she wouldn't have got a full ride. So there are those cases too, but I don't think that case, you can't cast that net broad, right? That's different situations. So I think everybody, such a touchy subject, like everybody wants to play, but in the back of their mind, do you really need to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think everybody thinks double-edged sword. It can be good and it can be bad.
Yep.
Yeah, and you think the percentage of kids that play a high school sport that play college is quite low.
Well, yeah, and it gets lower, right? So you go play high school and it's still up there. College, the window gets smaller. Major leagues, it's like what? Less than 1%?
Nothing. Oh, no, like 0.01. Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, I think that it's like 7 or 8% of high school athletes play a college sport, and that's not even D1. Like, we're talking about a lot of colleges, right? So there's a lot of small schools. That's junior college
or NIL.
Yeah,
that percentage I like to see now with NIL.
Right, I'm sure it's
who's actually playing and who's not.
Yeah, it changes, and
Yeah.
So I think the percentage is just so low, and then to go play professional in any sport is like 0.01%, and that's not even like baseball. That's not even the major leagues, man. Like I know a couple of guys that I went to high school with that got drafted in the majors, but it was also a 40-round draft then. But it was like make it to, single A, and that's it. Most get there and realize that ain't the life they want to live, riding a bus everywhere. Yeah. But it's just such a small percentage and such a small chance. And so I get it. We all want it. The kids want it to be them. Parents want it to be their kid. But I think it's the double-edged sword's probably a good way to look at it. So could be really good, but it also has its negatives too.
Yeah, it has its negatives, and just knowing as far as baseball is, like I do the kids that aren't playing rec now that they're playing travel. It's the rec programs are. I'm not going to say suffering, because there's still kids playing that want development, they want to play, and they want to have a good time.
I'd put it say suffering. I'm seeing it.
So they have, let's say they had 6 teams. Now they got 3 teams or 2 teams. Like, there's just not that many kids playing. Mm-hmm. And then what the product you put on the field is not great.
Yeah.
You got 1 or 2 kids, but
you got a kid at 10-year-old chasing butterflies.
Well,
because parents want them to go have fun, which is all good. But you're starting to, you're starting to see that a little bit more than I remember growing up. Most of the kids playing. We had the junior field then. How was your kids getting ready to play? JV, maybe one of those sophomores that came down there and you were trying to beat that kid. Now it's, well, why are you still playing rec? I get asked that a lot.
Why are you still playing rec?
In case, my boys are good. They're just as good as anybody else. But there's some kids that are just different. My kids are not different. But it's pretty wild. That's all I get asked when I go, y'all gonna play, y'all gonna play travel ball. I'm like, no, we're not.
And so this is, so I'm old, right? But like we had Shedder, Williamston, Pelzer, and man, it was you talk trash. We play y'all tomorrow. We're gonna whip y'all's tail, and we kept up with it. Like, but now it's just like that doesn't even matter. That rivalry.
No, it's now. Do you play for the Bulls or the Seams or Lightning? Now it's that.
What travel ball you go? Which there's some good guys and they're doing some great things, but like it's the hometown atmosphere is kind of going away.
Yeah,
which I hate to see.
Yeah, and that's like when I played Little League, we started at 9, I think, 9-year-old, and then we went through 12. So it was like a 9 and 10 and 11, 12-year-old league, but like. We played against basically the team stayed the same. It was the rivalry you talked about. Like the White Sox were always our arch nemesis, man. And because it was the same group of guys, and we had the same group of guys for 4 years, and they were like our team was pretty good, and the White Sox were always the team to beat. So it was like you wanted to beat that team, and it's kind of interesting to like think about it. They don't have that anymore. That's not even the thought, I guess, anymore. It's
that's what I get back to. That's what like my kids in general. They love football or baseball season or just sports season in general because they're going to the ball field to see friends they don't get to see.
Yeah.
they're checking out, Dad, who's on my team? And it has another fact of, are they going to be good or not? It's like, am I playing with my buddies?
Yeah.
And that's, for me personally, that's what I want to keep up. Let baseball be fun.
Yeah.
Not let it be at 8 years old a job.
Right.
Sort of things. And like, I want to share something because I asked permission.
Yeah.
But it's not nothing new. A buddy of mine, his son plays ran football, but he said he wrote this devotional years ago, and I told him what we were going to speak about today, and he was excited to hear it. But he wrote this. He said, "This baseball season, I have seen the competition for affections firsthand. People sacrifice time, money, relationships with friends and children, and even self-respect. But that which I have found the most troubling is when it is obvious that the parents, children, and others give greater fanfare to their quote-unquote field of dreams than they give to the Lord of hosts." And that was something he said he wrote 4 or 5 years ago. And it was funny that we were talking about this topic, and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is like, what's your God? Who is your God? Is it a sport, or is it our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And I think that's what it comes down to in the day. And talk about some scripture references. If Jeff, you had mentioned a couple, and I had pulled a couple more. You want to read? You got Hebrews pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to get Matthew 6:33?
I got it right.
Okay. All right.
But
Go.
mine, I was looking up last night, just again trying to figure out how, your recommendation of how spiritually can we get this where it touches, and I feel like in Hebrews 10, I believe it's 10:25, is this is one thing I think we get when you're talking about community, and it states that not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And that encouragement of, I see it more encouragement to play this tournament than it is come to church. Now, again, myself, I think part of my walk started on the baseball field. I'll never forget those guys that came and talked to me. So, it double-edged sword. It worked out in my favor, but I think we're getting that point. That really struck me when I was trying to research and dive in more, which made me read my Bible last night more than I should have. But.
Yeah, and one thing about encouragement is me and a friend of mine coached together for years. We always try to use encouragement as a way to teach the kids, hey, everybody's going to mess up, right? Yeah. But when your teammate messes up, instead of getting down on them, encourage them. Right. Give them a pat. Let's go. We'll get it next time. Like that. That's so important, not just in baseball. Yeah. Right? That's important in everything we do.
Well, I say this because it popped in my mind, and I hope he listens to it because I'm going to give him a shout out. And I'm not going to quote him verbatim, but this was the most impressive thing I've heard in probably youth ball that my oldest, Caden, played for Chip Bordeaux. And if you know Chip, we've gotten to know each other a good bit, man. Good dude. Just I love his family. What he stands for is, one, as a former player, he knows what he's talking about, but also as a dad and wanting to dive into the youth. But I remember he wanted to have a conversation with the kids first and, go over rules and his standards of baseball. And I was kind of like, listening in because I'm like, yeah, Caden's about to get a rude awakening. It started to be a little bit more big boy baseball. And he said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to utilize this game to glorify his name out here. And I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of wasn't, Yeah. And I was like, that is so impressive. And that was the point of, I want my kids to go on the football, whatever field, court, whatever it may be, that, again, if something ever happens to me, there's another good dude that I know has a foundation that's just going to use the game of baseball to imply something that God has for us. So, Chip, if you do listen to that, was probably the most impressive thing I've heard out of a dude in a while, and what I was looking for in my son. So, thank you.
Daniel, you got Matthew.
Yep.
6:33.
6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is seeking the kingdom of God first. It's not to say we can't enjoy the things that God's gifted us with. I think God's given all of us a unique ability and gifts, and definitely he's gifted athletes. I think that's giving glory to God. I mean, that's a God gifting in a lot of ways. There's a lot of kids out there you just can't teach. It's just a God-given ability. Right. But seek first the kingdom and all will be added, right? So I think that's so important. You Sermon on the Mount there, talking about that, where Jesus is going, one of the longest sermons ever, but like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we're called to seek first the kingdom. I just think that should be the priority, not any idol. And that's what 1 John 5, I'll read 20 and 21. Actually, let me go back to 19, because I think there's a lot of good in this. And it says, verse 19 of 1 John 5, we know that we are from God, and that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And we know that the Son of God has come and given us understanding, so that we may know who is true, and we in him who is true, in his Son, Jesus Christ. He says, he is the true God and eternal life. And he says, little children, keep yourself from idols. I think Satan can use things to become idols in our life. We love things and we're passionate about things, and that's not an issue. I don't think that's sin, but when it becomes an idol, when we put anything before God, it's an idol. I think these things are idols, man. Cell phones.
Oh, boy.
Cell phones can become idols real quick.
100%.
Look how much time we spend on our cell phones just mindlessly scrolling, and how much time do we spend with God? I think just thinking about that in perspective, it's not just always sports or travel ball. Anything can become an idol. But I do think that we've idolized sports so much that we put it above God. And I know there will be people probably listening, well, my travel ball team does a devotion. That's great. And I think that's awesome. And it should. And there should be prayer involved. But, like, at the end of the day, like, what is the priority?
Yeah. And with talking to Chad, and if you the key word is balance, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can't be, once you get to the idol, like, it's hard to get back, right? Because you get there and you're having fun, you may be winning, but staying balanced is that key thing, because you wouldn't be there if it wasn't for him. So let's kind of get back a little bit.
Right.
Well, I think that's where it goes on. When I looked up last night, what Paul said in Romans chapter 12, especially verse 2, says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will.
Yeah. You think about...
And that's everything. That's just not sports or travel ball.
Right.
Or, that's just the topic today. But, man...
How easy is it to be a chameleon, per se, and just, like, blend in?
Well, everything. This is a highlight reel. My social media platform is a highlight reel of my life, not the real one.
Right.
So...
You only post the small,
the good
best
stuff.
moments.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's don't be conformed. And, the world is full of wicked ways, and it says don't conform to that. Who should we be conformed to? It's the image of the Son, That's who we should be like. And, I think Jesus, as he walked the earth, I think he enjoyed the things that God had put on this earth. But obviously, being fully God, like, he knew his priority was to the Father. And so I think that's so important. It's like, what are we doing and what are we prioritizing, and are we being transformed by Christ?
And I think that's the big key word, right? Like, when you're talking about Chad saying there's a balance, that's difficult.
Yeah.
To play both ends of that sword. And priority is, I think, the biggest word that I get out of listening to you guys talk, and then trying to study up on something so I can give something fruitful to this conversation. But I just reflect back on my childhood when, my dad passed and we moved out here. The priority of church with my mom at her time in her life, church was not it. So I've wondered, sitting around, want to know what my teenage years, my young adult years would have been like if this was something that became routine. And I know my sons at some point going to have to make their own decision and, have their own independent thought. But, man, if I can not fail them at least in this, of making it a foundation to where they can get the discipline of it being routine. So if they know they're in trouble and they can't speak to me, they know they can speak to, but also making a point of balance. Like, hey, man, we're going to Myrtle Beach. I don't want to, Dad, we got church Wednesday and Sunday. I don't want to go. And it's like, it's okay, man. You're not going to hell because you missed a Wednesday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Or, you're not going to hell because you missed one Bible study. It's all right, but at the same time, not where it becomes a every weekend thing to where church is the
Question.
14th. Yeah, it's
Are we going or not?
Correct. Yeah. So,
but I think that's the important point, is that church isn't a building that we go to. It is physically, but it's about the community of believers that we belong to. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and like Chad talked a little bit last week about living out your faith and doing that. And if guys didn't do that on the baseball field to you, Jeff.
I wouldn't be sitting here talking y'all.
So
still look at y'all crazy.
Yeah. So it is an avenue, right? But
what's the priority? That's, I think, the key word here is priority.
Yeah. I think you can go back to the Great Commission to go therefore and make disciples. But when you look at the original Greek language there, it literally translates to as you're going. So like as you're at the ball field, like make disciples. And that's what people did for you. So I think that like if you look at it in the right lens, then, you know, if you're going to do something, do it for the glory of God. But also as you're going, like about your daily lives, make disciples. And I think we read that and we say go, like go on the mission trip. And those things are great, but it should be like right here every day. Like as we're going about our daily lives, make disciples of Jesus Christ. And so if you're going to the ball field, like, you know, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make disciples. It's an opportunity to instill in our kids, you know, what's the most important thing. You know, yes, we're going to spend a couple hours at the ball field, but is it for God's glory? And I think that's what we have to teach them and make it about. And, you know, I'll read this one more scripture out of Psalm 115. There's several verses starting in verse 4. And it does talk a little bit about idols. He said, their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths, but they do not speak, eyes, but they do not see. They have ears, but do not hear, and noses, but do not smell. They have hands, but do not feel, feet, but they don't walk, and they do not make a sound in their throat. Those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. I think we put a lot of trust in the ways of the world at times, and the things of the world. But man, like, that's pretty powerful what he says. Like when you think about idols and the reality of it. And I thought back, when I read that, I thought back to, you know, Moses and Aaron. Moses had gone up on the mountain to get the 10 Commandments from God, to speak with God, and he comes back down, and Aaron's had the people built this gold cow down there, and they're all singing and dancing and worshiping it. You know, they so quickly forgot, you know, what was most important in their life. They had just seen God doing all these miraculous things. And then Moses just goes up on the mountain, and that how quickly they forgot all that God had done for them. Like, on to this next God, you know, this golden cow, it does nothing for them. And Moses is so angry that he destroys the tablets that with the 10 Commandments on them, just because, like, what were they doing, man? And like, I think that if we really like search our heart, like, we make idols out of a lot of things and we don't even realize it. We worship things and that aren't God. And when we look at that scripture, man, it's like those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. And I think that's a lot of power. Like, where's our trust and faith, and what do we worship? Just something to think about. But I think all this to say, like, sports aren't bad. I don't think travel ball's inherently bad, but I think it can be, just like anything in life. The cell phones, as you mentioned, I mean, these things can be bad.
Oh, yeah.
They lead to destruction. But I do think that it's all about finding a balance. And I think that can almost be like something to live by. Thou shalt have balance in all things, you know. Yeah. But I think the priority and what we put first matters. I mean, I've not always been perfect at that, putting God first, you know. But I think that that's the most important thing. Sports aren't evil. Money's not evil. You know, we can go down a long list of things, but the love of it is. That's what the scripture said. The scripture says that the love of money is evil. It doesn't say money's evil. It doesn't say sports are evil. I mean, it's funny because I think Paul in the New Testament makes a lot of sport references. Like, there were sports going on in this time, maybe not like we know them today, but there were different sports happening. And Paul makes references to that all throughout the New Testament, you know, running races and that sort of stuff. Like, he talks about it, but what was priority at the end of the day? It's God.
Yep.
So I think that's so important. But I think probably if you guys don't have anything else to add, in with some encouragement for people, maybe that do this or like maybe struggling with this idea.
Well, I know you're going to talk longer, so I'll give my 2 cents. Because, well, you got this. I'm not in it because I'm a little lost in this conversation because I'm not a part of it. But I'm telling you as a man that is not bashing my mother, but just the time it was is not making church a priority and not putting that community around us, especially in our circumstances with, you know, losing my dad and changing scenery and the whole thing. I think that's the part she would agree she failed on as a parent and didn't prepare me better for things that I was going to endure later on teenage years to my combat tour to now in law enforcement. And here I am at 40 trying to get a hold of it. And a lot of things make sense. So that's the encouragement, like just let your kids have fun. God built us in a fabulous way to move, to throw, to punch, to kick, to laugh, to, all those good things. I mean, he built us that specific way, but don't lose that priority of that, because you never know what your kids are about to face and what you're going to face, when your storm's coming.
Encouragement is one of those things that in anything, it'll make your day better, right? So, if you're playing travel ball and you're playing all the time and you're having a great time, great. We're not here to, we're not bashing that. That's, I love sports too. I mean, if my kid wants to be on the field or the court or whatever, hey, I'll go. But at the end of the day, you just got to make sure that it's the right situation for your kids. It's the right team. It's the right coach. And you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. I thought about this just last night. We had our man battle group, and Hayden had soccer practice. I was like, man battles is once a month. And so that's an important Bible study for me. I enjoy getting with all the guys. And I was like, all right, how do we make this work? And a lot of people in the group were texting, man, we got baseball, got cheer, got this and that. And, I really internally struggle with, what's the balance to, be there and show my kid that, I'm there and always support him, but also, make God the priority. And so I got him to the soccer field, made sure he was good, made sure Katarina and Brooke were good, set up and ready, and went over to Bible study. I just felt like my conviction, that's not everybody's conviction, was that I'm going to go to a Bible study this once a month. He'll have soccer practice again next week. And it wasn't a game. It was just practice, They're 4 years old. It's a little different. But still, I internally struggled with that and thought through it, where's my priority? And I think that the priority is always God first and family second. That's what we're called to, is we always put God first and then it's family. And so that's hard. I think that's hard to really swallow sometimes, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
And how we should look at it.
Yeah. And it is hard to swallow. And when you do try to do both, right? I didn't grow up that way. We didn't do stuff on Wednesday nights at sports or Sundays. It didn't happen. So you were good to go to church or, whatever. And so, and with 3 kids, right? So, I was supposed to be there last night and I wasn't. I didn't go because Conard had a football game. And so, I struggle with that. And then I go, well, I'm at most of them. Yeah. Right. And again, it is once a month. And if it was practice, I probably would have missed. Yeah. I was trying to do both and come for a little bit like you did and leave. It didn't work out that way. And I didn't even get a text. Normally I'll get a text and go, hey, you at ball? I didn't even get that. So I don't even know if y'all missed me or not.
We did.
Did you go? You didn't go.
I was at work. Nope.
So it is a struggle, man. Because you want to be there for your kids, and then, once they start playing school sports, and well, guess what happens? Wednesday nights. Yep. If they play school sports, you're gonna have some Wednesday nights that you got games. Is that terrible? No. It's not every Wednesday. So if you're balanced, right? And I mean, Chad will say it from the pulpit. That's, on the schools or the districts and stuff like that. But, I think it really is a conversation that you need to have.
I think you guys, especially paying attention in sports and you being it as much with your children, I think you're starting to see a great shift in that. I mean, take for instance, Savannah Bananas. How many of their players are talking about and look at what they're doing? With big platforms. Yeah. You can't call that they got lucky, right? But they're still playing a game, And I think what you said about that was your conviction, and I want to sit there coming from somebody that's new in the faith and that was run away from it. Is just because it's your conviction doesn't mean it's mine, and don't point the finger.
Right. You got to be
'Cause I don't
understanding
like-
to everybody's
there were certain
situation.
messages
Yeah.
and I won't go into, but kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, yeah, that comment right there is why people tell you to go pound sand,
Right.
and I'm out.
Yeah.
Because you're not one upping me, because you're better than me, because you're going today, because I want to watch my son
Yeah.
play practice, because I've been putting in 92 hours of work.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
again, follow your conviction. If you feel like it's necessary and you want to make it, man, God will speak to you. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because there may be a day you go, dang, I want to go to that men's thing. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So I think you got to be understanding to everybody's situation and everybody's situation in your situation, right? And you got to be understanding of that, because at the end of the day, if you're not, then you will rub people the wrong way and you'll run them off and they'll go, well, I'm just going to get judged.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Like every Christian has that typical platform. Oh, they're just hypocrites. They'll carry my sin, throw my sin out, but won't carry their own. And
yep.
yeah, but anyway, that's another tangent. But
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, like yeah, for sure. And but I think that if you talk about it more, if you do what we do, and like people understand where you're coming from, right? Like you know that I struggle with it. I know that you struggle with it, right? You want to make but you're trying to do what's right and what you feel like you should. So
Yeah.
and I like to give people a hard time. So, but sometimes you just can't give people a hard time, right? Sometimes you just got to be reserved and just let it go.
Yeah. I think unless you guys have anything to add, I think a good way to end it
We
is
can
just
talk all day.
Yeah. And I think you encourage anybody listening that it's okay to love sports and love God. I think it's great for kids to love sports and love God. But I think families have to make a priority that, like, the word's first, man. God comes first. And if God is the ultimate priority, then we'll find enjoyment in other things. He's going to change our hearts in ways that, like, we don't enjoy the things of the world, but like you said, sports aren't evil. They can become evil, just like anything can in the wrong context. But if you love God and you seek first the kingdom, like Matthew 6:33 says, I think that we can find fulfillment in the other things of life, the things that are put here for us to enjoy, if we don't idolize it. But I think when you idolize anything, it becomes a problem. So I think that's the most important lesson probably from today is, like, what are those idols in your life? If you're listening, like, what are those things that have become idols for you that you put over God? I mean, and I can say, like, I've put sports over God before. It wasn't right. And, it doesn't, you don't find fulfillment in that. I only find fulfillment here, man. Like, ultimate, like, true fulfillment is found in the Word and in God. That's the only thing that fills me, like, completely. Sports may do it for a little while, but, then what's it like? It ultimately lets you down in some way. The only person that I found that's never let me down is God, because he never fails. Hebrews tells us Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Like, he's the same God he was that spoke to Moses, same God that sent his son to walk the earth. Man, he's the same God today. He's still fulfilled. He's the only thing that fulfills and satisfies. So I think that's where our fulfillment and satisfaction should come from. He's first. He's above all. And then the rest kind of falls into place. So I'd say that's a good way to kind of end it out with some encouragement. If you're struggling with it, don't beat yourself up. Reach out. Daniel's walked through it, man, with his kids. You can reach out and talk to them. I played travel ball for a couple years growing up. I've talked to people that work for major league front offices, and, like, I can tell you, like, I don't think they care, and they don't think that travel ball is important until they get more developed and later in life. So just think about priorities and what's most important at the end of the day. So, and probably have balance, like, above all.
Hey, yeah, and if you've had a great experience and you want to share it, throw it on the Facebook or the Instagram.
Yeah, you got a picture of the team doing a devotion or something. That'd be awesome, man. Like,
yeah, because like you say, that it's not all bad. There's good, bad, and ugly, and everything. So
that's right.
Like, we're gonna have a guy on in a couple of weeks, and he said everybody was talking about me when I was bad, but now that I'm good and sharing Christ, like, nobody talks about me. So I want them to talk about the good too. So yeah, if you got some good stuff, share it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to do it. It's been episode 7. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you have a great day.